these are the questions I will try to cover. What is the significance of Ramadan? How is it observed? What is the night of power, also known as the night of destiny, and why that night is so important? So I'm going to combine the third and fourth question and I'm going to try to condense it to a very um, small amount of information, because this is what we're going to do in the second event, the large event later in May. And then finally, how can Christians, followers of Jesus Christ, can pray for, love, and engage our Muslim neighbors during this time. So that's the outline, and I'm going to try to go through this with you and then open time for questions. So what is the significance of Ramadan? Actually, there's a surah, surah 2. It says, "Oh, you who believe," that's for Muslims, "fasting is prescribed for you as it was prescribed to those before you, that you may learn self-restraint." So the main issue in this verse is twofold. One, it's not something new. It's been done for other nations, and specifically whenever it says "before you" or "the people of the book," or it uses different terms, but usually it talks about Christians and Jews, Jewish people and Christians. So those are the two communities it's talking about, that the fasting was prescribed, because during Muhammad's time, Jewish people were, of course, fasting according to Jewish laws, and Christians also were fasting uh, under um, Roman Catholic reign. Protestant movement was not around yet. So the understanding was very much similar to the understanding of Muslim fasting. And of course, Muslim adopted from Jewish and Christian traditions and scriptures. So with that in mind, the idea is also part of the pillars of Islam. So there are 5 pillars, and I'm not going to go in the depth of any of these pillars. I'm sure if you're joining here, you have read some material on Islam, you know the fundamentals of Islam. But here, the only reason I put these 5 pillars is to show you the fasting part, the second last one: self purification through fasting. That's the idea here: self purification through fasting. And that self purification uh, uh, is demonstrated in 2 ways. One, in every Muslim should actually demonstrate in 2 ways. One, self purification physically, you are pure from anything that is sinful or distracting, but then also it's a mystical thing, it's a spiritual thing. So with that, that understanding, we're going to go in this idea of. Oh, by the way, the in Muslim community, there are different terms they use for fasting. Swam is a Arabic term, but rosa is the most used term, because rosa is a Hindi, Urdu, and also Bengali people use that. Indian Muslims use that. Pakistani Muslims use that. That's the When you put 3 of those Muslim communities together, that's the largest Muslim group. So whole religion of Islam is based on a work. So work-based salvation always want the um, adherent to do some sort of work, just like Catholicism in Christianity, or Orthodox faith, Greek Orthodox faith, or even Coptic has the similar idea. So when you talk about work-based salvation, you're talking about you got to do certain things in order to please God, in order to make sure that you will earn enough reward to enter into whatever that is in afterlife, whether that is paradise or is heaven, or whatever that might be. So with that, so that's the first thing I want us to remember theologically, that it is a work-based religion, work-based salvation. So people do work really hard on these kind of commandments. but their desires are genuine to please God. There is no doubt. And you, if you have friends or family members, you will know that they really desire to please God. And then devotion to seek God is also true. They're earnest, and we have seen several people recently who have come to Christ. They have done the same thing. For example, Nabil Qureshi, in his book, he confesses that he was seeking after Allah and he found Jesus. So the idea is you have genuine desire to please God and you have devotion to seek after God. Therefore, God does something for you. And then primary purpose of abstinence, constraining yourself from eating food and fasting, is to concentrate one's energy and mind on one's awareness of God. And it's very Christian concept if you think about it, uh, that we do not fast to show people that look at me, I'm fasting. Actually, the idea is that we must do that um, in secrecy, so the Lord is pleased. So that is the primary purpose of fasting, even in Islam. So you are putting your mind, heart, soul to know God, um, and on a life that is holy, and you are in a state of worship. So that's the primary purpose, and in that you have this idea of taqwa. Taqwa is a Islamic term, and simply the theology of taqwa is awareness of God, and there are a lot of different things you do in that. But the objective of that taqwa is to simply um, know God in a deeper way, be aware of God, and be in His presence. The idea of taqwa is very practical, actually, because it helps a person to overcome human desires and urges, um, whether food, drink, or some moral issue, or some bad habits or sinful habits. So the idea is taqwa helps you to overcome them by thinking on God and meditating on our responsibility to please God. Again, the idea is pretty Christian, pretty Jewish. It's not unfamiliar idea. Behind the scene is true. That is the intent, at least. So when you do not, which is also common in other religions too, not only monotheistic religions, you also see that in um, Buddhism, even in Hinduism, when people self-inflict themselves and they avoid human desires, relationships, materialistic possession. The whole idea is let's step away from them, remove those things. By removing those things from your life, you will be more aware of your spirituality. You will be looking inward and upward to God. So pretty standard understanding, but does it play out in real life? That's We can argue that, but that's not the case right here. This is not the platform to talk about this. The idea is, what is the significance of Ramadan? This is the significance for that. For a month, for a month, whole month, you have the opportunity to um, practically practice these things and force your mind, heart, body to just meditate on God and His Word. And in this case, for Muslims, that would be Quran, the holy book of Muslims. So also taqwa is a form of a charity, right? So taqwa is to take the finances that you were to spend on your daily need for food and other things. Some people smoke a lot, right? So tobacco costs a lot of money. So the idea is you take all of that money and buy food to give to those who are in need. So it's a way of helping poor people. So in during Ramadan, the generosity level goes really, really high. People who I do not know why, but you will see almost anybody who has the ability to feed other people. You will see the act of charity all over the Muslim world. People are feeding masses, and especially to do what is called um, a breaking of fast, which is in Islamic tradition, or the term is iftar. So you will see this large of iftar gatherings where people, and I put that one image for you right there, but that's just a smaller gathering. When I say large, like I'm really talking about hundreds of people are there, and people just give food because God has blessed them, and this is their way of pleasing God. It's not, the idea is never, that's one part I want to make sure we understand. The intention behind is not in this case is not the welfare of people, rather the welfare of self, because you are storing reward for yourself at the end. Because Ramadan, when you do these things, you know that you're going to earn more rewards, you're going to get more from God, and thus you do more. And it will become more clear in the following discussion how it's exercised and how it's seen as a way to please God, but also earn rewards.